I woke up to white lights above me. Not morning light. Not sunlight through a window. Harsh lights. Cold lights. The kind that don't belong to home. For a few seconds, I didn't understand where I was. My eyes opened, but my mind stayed somewhere else. There was a beeping sound nearby. Slow, rhythmic, unfamiliar. My body felt heavy, like it didn't fully belong to me anymore. I tried to move, but even that simple action felt delayed, as if my brain had to negotiate with my body first. The first thought wasn't fear. It was confusion. Why am I here? What happened? Wasn't I fine yesterday? I searched my memory, but everything before this moment felt distant, like a dream that fades the moment you wake up. I could remember normal things, sleeping, routine, nothing unusual. And that made this moment even more terrifying. Because if nothing was wrong before, how did I end up here now? That's when reality hit slowly, not all at once. The smell, the silence between sounds, the presence of machines, the feeling that something had gone wrong without asking for permission. Hospitals have a strange atmosphere. They don't scream danger, they whisper it. Everything looks calm, organized, controlled. But beneath that calm is the truth that something fragile is being held together. I realized then how quickly life can flip. One day you're planning tomorrow. The next day, tomorrow doesn't exist yet. There is only now, only breathing, only staying conscious. People talk about life-changing moments as if they arrive with drama, warnings, build-up. They don't. Sometimes they arrive quietly, early in the morning, when your defenses are down, when your mind isn't ready. That's what scared me the most. Not the pain, not the place, but the realization that control is an illusion. You think you're in charge of your body. You think you understand your limits. You think you'll get signs before something breaks. And then one morning proves you wrong. Lying there, I felt small, stripped of identity. Not a role, not a title, not a responsibility, just a human body trying to function. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not plans, not achievements, not what people expected from me. Only one question kept repeating in my head. How do I hold myself together right now? Because when shock hits, the mind doesn't rush into emotion. It freezes. It disconnects. It creates distance just to survive the moment. And that numbness feels strange, like you're watching your own life from the outside. I noticed my breathing. Shallow, careful, as if my body didn't trust itself anymore. Every small sensation felt amplified. Every sound felt important. Every second felt heavy. And somewhere between the beeping machines and the white walls, I understood something deeply unsettling. Life doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't wait for strength. It doesn't check your plans. It doesn't care how prepared you think you are. It just happens. And when it does, the real question isn't why. The real question is how. How do you stay calm when your reality collapses? How do you ground yourself when nothing feels familiar? How do you keep your mind from breaking when your body already feels fragile? That morning wasn't just about waking up in a hospital. It was about waking up to how vulnerable being human really is. As the minutes passed, time stopped behaving normally. Seconds felt stretched, heavy, uneven. I wasn't thinking in full sentences anymore. Thoughts came in fragments, disconnected pieces that didn't want to form a complete picture. My mind was trying to protect itself by not understanding too much at once. I became aware of how fragile awareness itself is. Just being conscious felt like effort. Not pain, effort. As if staying present required energy I didn't know I had. Every blink felt deliberate. Every breath felt monitored, like my body had entered survival mode without consulting me. The hardest part wasn't knowing what had happened. It was not knowing what could happen next. Uncertainty pressed down harder than fear. Fear at least has shape. Uncertainty is formless. It leaks into everything and makes the smallest thoughts feel dangerous. I noticed how quiet my mind became. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The kind where emotions are paused because feeling them would be too much. People think shock looks dramatic, but it doesn't. Shock looks calm, silent, detached. It looks like someone staring at a ceiling, trying to stay intact. In that stillness, I felt something shift. A realization that the version of me from yesterday was gone. Not dead, just no longer relevant. That person didn't know what I knew now. That person believed in continuity, in predictable days, in normal mornings. Lying there, I understood how thin the line is between ordinary life and crisis. How easily routine turns into emergency. How quickly the mind loses its sense of safety. And once safety is gone, everything feels unstable, even your own thoughts. I tried to ground myself in small things: the weight of the blanket, the rhythm of the machine, the feeling of air entering and leaving my lungs. I wasn't calming myself, I was anchoring myself. Because when reality breaks, you don't need answers. You need anchors. There was a quiet fear beneath everything. Not panic, but something deeper. The fear that life could change permanently without warning. The fear that you don't get to choose when strength is required. It's demanded, instantly. And in that moment, I realized something important. When life hits without warning, survival isn't about bravery or positivity. It's about staying present enough to not fall apart. About holding on to the moment instead of running from it. That was the beginning, not of recovery, not of understanding, but of awareness. The awareness that from this point on, nothing would feel the same, because now I knew how quickly everything could disappear. After the initial shock settled, something stranger took its place. My body was there, but my mind felt distant, like it had stepped back to observe instead of participate. Sounds reached me late. Words took time to register. Even my own thoughts felt like they were echoing from far away. This distance wasn't calm. It was protective. The mind does this when reality is too sudden, too heavy. It creates space so the system doesn't collapse under the weight of what just happened. From the outside, it might look like composure. From the inside, it feels unreal. I started questioning simple things. Is this actually happening? Am I awake? Will this moment end if I close my eyes? Nothing felt solid. Even time felt unreliable, stretching and compressing without warning. The hardest part was the loss of control. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't leave. I couldn't even decide what happened next. Other people moved around me with purpose, while I stayed still, reduced to waiting. That helplessness hits quietly but deeply. It strips away the illusion that independence is guaranteed. In that space, fear didn't explode. It sank. It settled in the chest like weight. Not screaming panic, but a steady pressure that made breathing feel deliberate. Every small sensation became meaningful. A sound could raise anxiety. Silence could make it worse. I realized how much of daily confidence comes from movement, from being able to act. When action is taken away, the mind struggles. Thoughts loop. Questions repeat. And without answers, the imagination fills the gaps with worst-case scenarios. There was also shame, irrational, but present. A strange sense of guilt for being weak, for needing help, for lying there unable to function normally. It didn't make sense, but trauma rarely does. The mind searches for fault even when none exists. As hours passed, I noticed how easily identity dissolves in crisis. I wasn't defined by what I do or who I am anymore. I was defined by my condition. A patient, a body being monitored, a life paused. And in that pause, one truth became unavoidable. When everything is stripped away, the only thing that matters is staying mentally intact. Not optimistic, not strong, just intact enough to face the next minute without breaking. As time moved forward in that strange, distorted way, my thoughts began turning inward. Not in a reflective, calm manner, but in a searching one. My mind was trying to regain some sense of order, something familiar to hold on to. But nothing felt familiar anymore. Even my own reactions surprised me. I expected panic, tears, breakdown. Instead, there was restraint. A quiet tension, like everything emotional was being held behind a wall. I started noticing how the mind reacts when it realizes it cannot escape. There is a subtle shift from resistance to observation. You stop asking, how do I get out of this, and start asking, how do I survive this moment? Survival becomes psychological before it becomes physical. The body lies still, but the mind works constantly. It scans for threats. It replays fragments of memory. It imagines futures it may never reach. And in between those thoughts, there are gaps, moments where nothing happens, and those moments are terrifying. Silence gives space for fear to grow. I became aware of how alone a person feels during sudden trauma, even when surrounded by people. Doctors speak in controlled tones. Machines do their jobs. Everything functions. But internally, you are isolated inside your own uncertainty. No one can step inside your head and steady it for you. There is also a strange loss of dignity. Not because anyone treats you badly, but because independence disappears. You wait for permission. You depend on strangers. You surrender control in ways you never considered before. That surrender shakes something deep inside. I noticed how my thoughts kept circling one idea. you.